Hola y bienvenido a este video sobre la conversación en español. Hello and welcome to this video lesson about Spanish conversation. We're going to be learning some of the basics to having a conversation in Spanish. Los retos de esta clase son, so the goals of this lesson are to learn the basics for having a conversation in Spanish, to be able to ask and answer some key questions, and to learn some key words like yes, no, please, and thanks. So let's get started. So the first word we're going to need, and this is a word you might have come across already, is Hola. So Hola means hello. And notice at the end of hello we've got an exclamation mark, perfectly normal. But in the Spanish we've got the exclamation mark at the end of Hola, but also an upside down exclamation mark at the beginning. So that's something a bit quirky about Spanish, that with exclamation marks and question marks, we don't just have the same one at the end of the word or sentence that we have in English, we also have an upside down one at the beginning. It's a bit strange at first, but actually, because a lot of questions in Spanish are worded like statements, it gives you a bit of a clue as a reader that you need to change the intonation. You need to make your voice go up at the end so that the other person knows it's a question that you're asking, you're not making a statement. A bit like saying, you're going to the shops, instead of you're going to the shops. Okay, so that's our first word, hola. And also notice that the H is not pronounced, so it's not hola, but hola. So in Spanish, the H is always silent. Our next phrase is buenos días. Buenos días. And that means good day or good morning. Buenos días. Past lunchtime, you can say buenas tardes. Buenas tardes. That means good afternoon or good evening, so you can use it into the evening as well. Buenas tardes. Once it gets dark and you consider it nighttime, you can say buenas noches. Buenas noches, which means good night. Okay, our first question that we might ask someone after we've said hola or buenos días, buenas tardes, buenas noches, once we've said our greeting, we might want to ask them, ¿Cómo estás? ¿Cómo estás? And that means, how are you? There's another way you can ask this question. You can just say, ¿Qué tal? ¿Qué tal? So, how are you? ¿Cómo estás? Or, ¿Qué tal? And here we've got an example of the upside down question mark. When you ask someone the question, ¿Cómo estás? Or if you're asked the question, ¿Cómo estás? Most commonly people will respond, estoy, which means I am, and then they'll use an adjective to describe how they are. So you could say, estoy feliz, I'm happy, feliz. Estoy nervioso, if you're a boy or a man, or nerviosa for girls and women. So in Spanish there are gendered words, gendered nouns, and gendered adjectives. So we have to bear that in mind when we respond to this question, because we need to use the word that applies to us. So either estoy nervioso or estoy nerviosa. Feliz is kind of gender neutral, so anyone can use that one. You don't need to adapt it at all. You might say estoy cansado or estoy cansada. Estoy estresado o estresada. Or estoy enfermo o enferma. So let's just go through those. Estoy feliz, I'm happy. Estoy nervioso, I'm nervous. Or estoy nerviosa, I'm nervous. Estoy cansado. Estoy estresado. Estoy enfermo. Okay, if you want, pause the video and write this down if you want to learn this vocabulary. Or go back and listen to me repeat them, and then try and repeat them at home as well yourself so you get used to saying these. And it's a good trick to sometimes record your own voice and compare it to mine or another speaker's and see whether the way you pronounce it sounds like the way that I pronounce it. Okay, and if we want to make our response to this question, ¿Cómo estás?, more interesting, we can add in what are called quantifiers, like un poco, a little bit, bastante, quite, realmente, really, or muy, which means very. So we might say, estoy muy feliz, I'm very happy. Estoy realmente cansado, I'm really tired. Estoy bastante estresado, I'm quite stressed. Estoy un poco enfermo, I'm a little bit poorly. Okay, practice saying some of these and maybe practice writing a few different phrases down with their translations in English. And when you're ready, push play. Okay, so let's move on. Ahora practiquemos. So now let's practice. Here we've got some of the words we've just looked at. Hola, buenos días. ¿Cómo estás? Buenas noches. Buenas tardes. And here we've got the English. What I'd like you to do, if you've got a piece of paper, just write 1 to 5 and then write the letters and match up the Spanish with the English. If you don't have a piece of paper or you don't have a pen, just do this in your head. So for each one, think about which English word it should match with. And when you've completed that, just push play again. Okay, so let's go through. So hola is hello. So number 1, número uno, is sí. Buenos días means good morning or good day. So número 2 is y. ¿Cómo estás? Means how are you? So número 3, number 3, is D. Número 4, buenas noches. Buenas noches means good night. So that one's A. And then finally, por último, el número 5, buenas tardes, is good afternoon or good evening. So that one is B. Once you've said your greeting and you've asked the other person how they are, and you've told them how you're doing, you might want to find out what their name is. So this is a really key question and answer to be able to have in a Spanish conversation. So to ask someone their name, you can ask them, ¿Cómo te llamas? So careful with that double L because it's not a L sound, it's a Y, almost like an English Y. ¿Cómo te llamas? And that means what are you called? It literally means what do you call yourself? ¿Cómo te llamas? And the response to that question is me llamo and then your name. So I am called, or literally I call myself, and then whatever your name is. So I'd say me llamo James. The person on the ID badge, it says nombre, which means name, Pedro. So his name is Pedro. So if we asked him, Hola, ¿cómo te llamas? He might say to us, me llamo Pedro. ¿Y tú? ¿Y tú means and you. So it's a good way to get the conversation flowing. When someone introduces themselves and they give you their name, you'd normally say, in English as well, you'd normally say, nice to meet you or pleasure to meet you. In Spanish you can say, encantado, 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 which means pleased to meet you. Or you can also say, mucho gusto, mucho gusto. So they both are a way of saying, pleased to meet you, or it's a pleasure to meet you. When you've had your conversation and it's time to say goodbye, there are different ways you can say goodbye or farewell to someone. You can say adios, which means goodbye, so it's more sort of final. Adios. If you just want to say see you later, you can say hasta luego. So careful with that silent H. Like in hola, we don't say the H, The same here, so it's hasta luego. And hasta luego means see you later. You might also want to say hasta pronto. Hasta pronto. And that means see you soon. So hasta on its own means until. So you're literally saying until later or until soon. Now some other key words and phrases that you need to know if you're going to get by in a Spanish conversation. You need to know how to say yes and agree to things, or say no and decline things. If you're in Spain and people are trying to invite you into a restaurant, you need to be able to say no thank you or yes please. So yes is sí. Sí. No is no. No. So careful not to say no, like in English it's no. Por favor. Por favor is please. It's almost like you're saying as a favor. Por favor. So you're asking someone to do something. Por favor. When they've done that, or when the waiter brings you your meal, you might want to say to them, gracias. Gracias. Which means thanks. In Spain, most people have what's often referred to as the Spanish lisp, so they'd say gracias. So they pronounce that C almost like an English TH. But there are some parts of Spain, and all of South America would say gracias. If you want to get someone's attention, or you want to say excuse me to ask a question, you can say disculpe. Disculpe. But if you bump into someone and you want to say sorry, or you've done something wrong and you want to say sorry, then the way to say that is lo siento. Lo siento. So that means sorry, quite literally it means I feel it. So it's a sort of odd way of saying sorry. Lo siento. And that brings us to the end of this lesson. So hopefully you've now got some vocabulary that you can use to have a basic conversation in Spanish, say hi to people, say bye to people, find out people's names, and make a bit of small talk, see how they're doing today. What you might want to do as some next steps for this is to practice saying these phrases. It might be worth going back through the video, pausing it, reading out the vocabulary yourself, trying to copy my pronunciation. You can even record yourself on your phone and listen back to yourself and compare it to how I say the words to see if you're remembering that you don't pronounce the H, remembering to pronounce no as no and not as no. Another thing you might want to do is to write a short dialogue using these phrases, so you can have, you can imagine a situation where two people are saying, Hola, buenos días, ¿cómo estás? Estoy realmente feliz. ¿Cómo te llamas? Me llamo Juan. Okay, so you can write a bit of a dialogue. And another thing you might want to do is to teach someone you know these phrases. So if you've got someone at home that's interested in learning a bit of Spanish, you could always teach them these phrases, and then you can work that into every time you see each other. Instead of saying hey or hello, you can say hola, ¿cómo estás? Okay, muchísimas gracias por ver este video. Thank you very much for watching this video y espero que te vaya muy bien con el español.